Specific questions. So you're coming in, I think everybody did well, so I'll review them a little bit later. So everybody's gonna come in on Tuesday with 20 points in their pocket.
Woo!
All you have to do is earn the other 80. And the other 80 are gonna be multiple choice. So since there are 5 topics in this unit, right? Skin and eyes, respiratory, upper, lower, systemic infections, urogenital infections, and then nervous system and gastrointestinal, 6. There's going to be about 10 questions for each one. I'll probably write 15 for each one, and you'll get 10 of them. Right? It'll be just like we did before. You'll come in, you'll get ready, and then I will give you the password, and you'll take it. Once you take it, it should be pretty easy for me to go ahead and post the grades. And so you should know then whether or not you want to take the optional final. The optional final will be, again, 60 multiple choice questions, but now there'll be about 12 questions from every unit, right? And I'm pretty predictable, right? So I'm probably not going to spend that much time on determining health and disease, maybe a question on virulence. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on epidemiology, maybe the difference between pandemic, endemic, and sporadic and epidemic. But most of the stuff is going to be immunological. Right? So, and then you can think about what were the most important things we talked about in unit 1, which was about cell morphology, right? So we'll spend a lot more time on cell morphology and what the cell is, right, than I will on who was the first person to talk about taxonomy, right? So it's pretty easy to think about what questions might be asked. On unit 2, control, right? So control is a big one. I'm not gonna spend a whole bunch of time. There'll be some questions on DNA and RNA biology. It is gonna be control. Control is gonna be dominant, right? Third unit, I'll just take a few from every group, right? So a little virus, a little fungus, a little protozoan, a little metazoan, a little exoparasite, right? And then unit 5, I'll just pick some of my favorite microorganisms. Perhaps you might even get to see some of the ones you saw today again, but just in a multiple choice question. That's only if you decide to take the optional final. If you decide to take the optional final, it can only help you. If you do, I hope you don't, but if you do not as well as the lowest grade that you had on one of the previous 5 exams, it doesn't hurt you. It can only help you. Okay? So everybody good about the way it's going to be set up? I haven't written it on either one of them. I'm going to write exam 5 tonight, probably, and then I will deal with the final sometime this week. I promised my majors class, I promised them they had a fill in the blank practical. I have to grade that. So that's going to be my focus for a while, because your grades are already posted for your practical. Yes, ma'am?
Does the final exam questions include lecture and lab questions?
No, just lecture.
Okay.
Lab is officially done when you took that last practical.
Okay.
There is no more lab.
Okay.
It is done. The only thing left to do is lecture stuff.
Okay.
Okay? Good? So I thought we would review for exam 5 by me just pointing at somebody, asking you a question, and if they can't answer, anybody can answer. Fair enough? And we'll just kind of go down. Everybody will get a chance. You can pass if you want, or you can answer if you know. But at least you'll get an idea of what the questions might be. Okay? So let's start here. Chescanator. There are 2 etiologies that are responsible for most of cellulitis. What are the 2 etiologies responsible for most skin infections? Anybody?
Gangrene.
Nope. So think about chunkum,
Sepsis.
right? So we're looking at that first lecture about skin and eyes, right?
Did you ask for the organisms?
Uh-huh. Genus and species.
S.
Through the etiology.
pyogenes and
Staph aureus, Streptococcus pyogenes. Very good. So, hey, Lakeisha, there are 3 different There are 3 different presentations of Bacillus anthracis. Can you name the 3 different presentations? Anybody? Uh-huh. Skin.
Lungs. The eye.
3 different presentations, right? There's I'm sorry. So one of the infectious agents is related to Mycobacterium tuberculosis, but it mostly causes skin infections of parts of the body that are cooler than body temperature, right? This particular infectious agent will grow over a long period of time as a large incubation period, right? And currently it's treated with the same type of anti-tuberculosis drugs that tuberculosis is treated with. Can you name the etiology? Who knows?
Can you ask that question?
What is the etiology of skin infections that are found on places of the body that are cooler than body temperature, that have a long incubation period and is related to Mycobacterium tuberculosis?
Ooh, I just did this one.
Huh?
I feel like I remember that lecture.
Yes, it
I
is.
forgot the name.
That's right, Mycobacterium leprae. Leprosy. Okay?
Leopard people.
Good.
Yeah, because that's the one that you said that people can get an vaccine for.
You can, but we don't
But
give
we
it
don't
here
get it because it would go
because
in
it
the TB test.
interferes with our
Yeah, see, I
screening for
remember
TB.
that, but I didn't remember what it was.
What do you mean? Oh, there she goes again. All right, let's go to respiratory tract. Jalen, what is the number one cause in general of all pharyngeal tonsil infections? That's bacteria, but what about all of them?
What do you mean?
If everybody in here has it, and we all look, some of them are going to be bacterial.
Oh, that's the one in here now.
No, not nose. It's the most common cause of pharyngeal tonsillitis. That's bacterial. So if I ask the question, what's the number one cause of bacterial pharyngitis? Viruses. Viruses are the number one cause of pharyngitis. Most people get pharyngitis, they get a viral infection, you go to the physician,
And
they look back there, they say, we can't help you, sorry, go home, rest a little bit, maybe drink a hot toddy, but there's not much we can do for you.
So the common cold?
No, not the common cold. It's just
Viral.
viruses. There are specific genera we could do, but I'm not gonna do that. It's just gonna be virus. Oh, by the way, these are questions I'm probably gonna write this. I'm thinking about them as I'm reading. So if we think about the number one cause of the common cold, Mr. Keon, what is the number one cause of the common cold? Rhinovirus, very good. And are fomites a big deal with rhinoviruses?
Yes.
Limited.
What is fomites?
What you find on stuff.
Yeah.
Something that has a lot.
That's a really great word to put in your vocabulary right now.
What did we
Because you're
say it
gonna
was?
hear it every time you go to
Not
nursing.
Fomites.
No, what did we say fomites was?
So it's
Inanimate objects.
an object
object.
that has germs.
Yeah, like
Living-
it could be pen, anything.
Is it living? Anything
Not
living
living.
objects?
Non-living.
Oh, non-living objects.
So, Cynthia, what's the most common cause of bacterial pharyngitis? Pyogenes, very good. Claudia, there are 4 sequelae associated with Streptococcus pyogenes. Please tell me what those sequelae are. Okay, good.
I learned this.
Huh?
The epiglottis.
Acute epiglottitis, it's a true infection. Next. Scarlet fever, an intoxication, that's correct. And the 2 that are circulating antibodies are what?
Strep throat?
Glomerulonephritis and rheumatic fever.
Oh,
Good.
I'm all off.
Some people got a little studying to do.
But that was my answer for the day.
Okay.
You don't gotta ask me. No.
I passed.
You can't pass till you get the question. Okay?
It's a
Good. No, I already got her. Yeah.
No, you did.
She passed.
Oh, she did.
Jalen answered for her.
Jalen answered for
Jalen's
me.
all over there. Look at her.
Right.
Cindy. There's an infectious agent that fragments the ciliated cells of the trachea and the lungs. It results in a kind of cough.
Oh, I know.
What is the etiology?
Is that whooping cough?
Yeah, but what's the etiology?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it epidemic?
No, thank you very much. Pertussis, what the genus? Bordetella. So, folks, when I'm writing these questions, I might get lazy. I might leave off the species, so y'all have to know the genus.
So what is
That's so mean.
epidemiology then? Like what is?
Epidemiology is how it's transmitted in a
And that's
population.
the Bordetella.
So for whooping cough, it would be
breeding?
the aerosols,
Yeah.
and mostly the people who are the carriers are the parents of kids.
Okay.
Okay?
And etiology, what would be the etiology of?
Whooping cough,
Yeah.
Bordetella pertussis.
Okay, so etiology is the
Cause. It's a cause.
Which would be the bacterial or the virus or whatever.
Genus and species, etiology.
And then
Etiology
epi-
is
Epidemiology is how it's spread.
So that would be epidemic and.
No, those are types of those describe organisms in a population.
Okay.
The way it's spread is aerosols,
Okay.
personal touch,
Okay, and that's epidemiology.
foodborne. Those are transmission routes. Okay. All right, Victoria.
Maybe.
If we think about pneumonia, what's the most common etiology for bacterial pneumonia in adults? It's also the most common cause of meningitis in adults. What is the etiology? Anybody? Streptococcus pneumonia, very good. There are other etiologies
Like that.
associated with certain segments of the population. For alcoholics and homeless, what's the etiology?
Is it
Klebsiella pneumonia, very good. For young kids, we used to have a big problem with an infectious agent, and then we started giving the HIV vaccine. What's the etiology there? Anybody? Haemophilus influenzae. You're looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
What was it?
Haemophilus influenzae.
Haemophilus.
And the etiology for walking pneumonia is what?
It's
Mycoplasma pneumonia. Okay. Hopefully you're recording this. Angela, about 1972, there was an outbreak of a fever of unknown origin in Philadelphia, in the Bellevue Stratford Hotel. 221 people got this infectious agent. They couldn't figure out what was going on, but they finally were able to capture the etiology from some dispersing agents that were in HVAC system. What is the etiology of the infectious agent that we know as Legionnaire's disease today?
I don't know. I just know it's on the water.
Legionella pneumophila. Very good.
You were just waiting to answer that one.
Ms. Carolina, there are two different stages for this infectious agent. One of them is called latent or dormant. The other one is called active. In the United States, we have really good antimicrobial agents to fight it. There is a vaccine available that's called the BCG, but we don't give the BCG in the United States because it interferes with our screening tools. What is the etiology of the lower respiratory tract infection that is caused by what I just described? Tuberculosis, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, right? Gio, what is the most common cause of bacteremia in the United States? I need a gram specificity morphology.
I don't know.
Yes, gram specificity morphology. There's
Gram-negative or gram-positive?
gram-negative what?
Oh,
Bacillus?
Bacillus. Very good. We talked specifically, Ms. Rebecca, about one of the gram-negative bacilli that have become very dangerous lately in hospital-acquired infections because that particular organism produces a type of enzyme that destroys every single last resort antibiotic that we have. Can you tell me what that infectious agent is? Also known as KPC.
Pneumonia.
Klebsiella pneumoniae that produces carbamidase. Okay? Good. All right. Ms. Tamisha, the etiology of gangrene is typically a mixed infection of Clostridia, but we typically give that particular isolate the name Clostridium perfringens. In order to treat that particular infectious agent, we do a type of therapy to which we infuse oxygen into the tissues. What is that type of therapy called?
Hyperbaric.
Hyperbaric. Very good.
Sorry. That's the only one I know.
Ask me another one.
Okay, Hermione.
Jalen's answering everybody's question. She can't answer anymore. Now, what's my next question?
Oh, good.
She can take mine.
So, Tamisha.
Oh, time is up. It's time.
No. There's an infectious agent that is actually spread by the bite of a tick. Early symptomology are that you have erythema migrans, neuropathy, and you have this Bell's palsy that develops. Can you give me the etiology of that particular infectious agent? Anybody?
I don't know.
Lyme disease.
Borrelia burgdorferi. Oh no.
And that's Lyme
Lyme disease.
Oh,
It is You're
Rosa,
right.
there are
Don't take
two
it back.
infectious agents that I said you needed to know for the exam because they're so easily communicated. You only need 10 cells to get an infection by. And so these are the ones that I fear the most when there's an outbreak.
Which two were they?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Oh.
Rosa, which are those two infectious agents? What are those two etiologies?
The only one I remember is the one that starts with an F.
Franciella is one of them. The other one is what? Shigella.
Mm.
I'm sure you know that.
So you know that. I'm just like, I don't know. It's Franciella. It's something like
Why
that.
are they so
when it's
communicative?
F.
They have a bunch of virulence factors that allow them to be easily taken in.
How do you spell Franciella? Or
Send me
Look up
this. Send me
tularemia.
this. For real.
how do you spell
I was
tularemia?
So do you want to go another round or you had enough?
Yeah.
You want to go another round?
Oh my god.
Yes.
Or we'll go back the other way, okay? So Rosa, we'll start with you now. Okay? So.
She got dropped off on her car.
Okay. So, one of the infectious agents is known to be associated with the reservoir, which is the rat or the squirrel, and the vector, which is the flea. This, over a period of time and many years, have become known to cause infections septicemically, pneumonically, and lymphatically. What is the etiology of that infectious agent? Okay. Anybody?
Bubonic plague.
Well, but what is the genus and species? Yersinia pestis.
Yeah, you're saying.
Very good. Okay. There is one infectious agent, Ms. Tamisha, that has typically associated with everybody, but because we have a competent immune system, we never come down with infections with it. The common reservoir for it are birds, rats, mice, and cats. And so therefore we see this causing problems in our immunocompromised individuals, especially it's leading to we're seeing trends of blindness in eyes. What is the etiology that I'm talking about? No. Toxoplasma gondii. So we're talking about infectious agents, and so it's going to be some type of infectious agent. Okay? Let's move on to urogenital. When we talk about urogenital, Rebecca, so what's the most common cause of urinary tract infections?
E. coli.
E. coli. Very good.
That is not yours.
Gia, we've talked about an infectious agent that is typically considered the most common cause of vaginitis, and that particular agent is a fungus. Can you give me the genus of the species of that particular organism?
Staph aureus.
No.
Candida albicans.
Candida albicans. Good.
Why you ask me that one?
These are just what are coming to my head when I get to you, right? All right. Let's see, Miss Carolina. So, an infectious agent that causes
Kobe?
oh yeah, come on.
I need to give you something.
Oh,
in
thank
case
you
I
very
don't
much.
see you again. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. I'm a true nerd. She's actually got me on her phone as Felix Nerd.
Hi.
Thank you.
Accurate.
If I don't see you, have a great
Thank you.
holiday.
Okay, where was I? Oh, okay. So, so an infectious agent that can be communicated through sex, but not necessarily, that we typically see an observation of a fishy odor and clue cells. What is the etiology that we're talking about? Not trichomonas.
Chlamydia.
Not chlamydia.
Gonorrhea.
Not gonorrhea.
Conjunctivitis.
No. Gardnerella vaginalis.
Oh, it's not
Oh,
one.
that one's vaginal.
BV. That's right. BV.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, where am I? Okay. So, Angela, there is an infectious agent that is sexually transmitted that has 3 stages: primary, secondary, tertiary. The primary stage typically is associated with a chancre sore. People call it canker sore. What is the etiology?
Herpes.
Syphilis.
Oh, they answered it, herpes.
Treponema
Oh.
pallidum, syphilis.
Syphilis.
What is the most common of all sexually transmitted infections that's viral by nature, Miss Victoria?
Herpes.
Good guess, but no.
HIV.
Nope. HPV.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Human papillomavirus. Let's move on to nervous system. So there are 2 different intoxications that are caused by bacillus. One of them is caused by Bacillus botulinum, and the other one is caused by Clostridium tetani. One of them is known as spastic paralysis, the other is known as flaccid paralysis. What is the etiology of flaccid paralysis?
Are you asking me? Oh, I don't know.
Anybody?
Tetanus is the hard
Flaccid
one.
paralysis.
That's, yeah.
You don't have any control of your body. That's Clostridium botulinum. Botulism. Spastic paralysis, your body goes
Is the tetanus.
rigid.
That's the tetanus one.
That's tetanus, Clostridium tetani. Okay? So, one of the infectious agents that causes meningitis is the most virulent form of meningitis itself. It has about 80% mortality rate. It's a gram-negative diplococci. What is the etiology, Miss Claudia? Anybody? Neisseria meningitidis.
That's what it's called?
I would have never guessed that.
Neisseria meningitidis. Okay?
Oh, I was so wrong.
So, Cynthia, another cause of bacterial meningitis is associated with, let's see, okay, let's do it this way. The most common cause of bacterial meningitis in adults is what? Bacterial.
Streptococcus pneumoniae.
No. This is Streptococcus pneumoniae.
Pneumonia.
It's a little bit weird because it seems like it would be causing pneumonia, but it also causes meningitis. Okay?
And that's the inflammation of the.
Which one?
Meninges.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh no, that's encephalitis.
One of the infectious agents of viral by nature, Mr. Keon, is actually transmitted through contaminated water because it is released from the human body through the feces. This particular infectious agent leads to a degenerative type of chronic illness that we don't see very much anymore due to vaccinations. But there are still some people who have this really bad disease, and in order for them to survive, there are iron lungs. What is the infectious virus that's causing this?
Polio.
It's polio, but I don't know.
I like that one.
What's the name? The name?
The
The
what?
species genies?
Poliomyelitis? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Is that what we need to know that, right?
It's just one big word though.
Yeah, it has polio and it has myelitis,
Yeah.
right? Because myelitis, it's affecting the nerves, right? The myelin sheaths. Okay? Asada. let's go to GI. Okay, what's the most common cause of bacterial enteritis? So be sure we know that enteritis is the infection of the small intestines, gastritis is the infection of the stomach, and colitis is the infection of the colon. So by medical means, if you have gastroenterocolitis, you have an infection of the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestines. What's the most common cause of bacterial enteritis? Anybody?
E. coli.
Salmonella.
Okay.
E. coli is not typically a pathogen in the GI tract. There's very few strains like E. coli 015787, right?
So what was that one again? It's the most common.
Salmonella. It's the
Okay.
most common cause of small intestine infection.
Okay.
So there is a whole bunch of acronyms for E. coli that you'll find. There's EHC, EIEC, there's EAEC, there's ETEC. There's a bunch of them. I only need you to know EHEC, write this down. That's enterohemorrhagic E. coli. That's E. coli 015787. Write it down. Or
Alright.
record it.
EHCE?
EHEC. That's the bad boy of the group. That one causes hemolytic uremic syndrome, HUS. The other one that I might ask about is ETEC. That's enterotoxigenic E. coli, and that causes traveler's diarrhea. Okay, those are the only two E. colis that I'm gonna ask about. There's a lot. But the most dangerous of all infectious agents that you can acquire in the GI tract is a small gram-negative comma-shaped bacillus. And it causes an infection where you lose about 1 liter of water every hour. You become hypovolemic, which leads to death. What is the infectious agent?
Shigella?
Shigella is a good answer, but a good guess, but it's not the correct answer.
I said Shigella too.
Vibrio cholerae. It's the
Oh,
bad boy.
right.
It's the bad boy of the entire group. You sure you know that guy? Okay.
I know the big names for them.
The
but, like,
big, the big names.
yeah, that like makes sense, but like the little ones, those
The
are really
little-
hard.
The other ones. Okay. Okay, so we'll go back to the nervous system very quickly. Chescanator. There is this, in the nervous system, there is this infection that's caused by amoeba of the brain. It's called PAM, primary amoebic meningoencephalopathy. Give me the two genera that cause PAM. Naegleria and Acanthamoeba. I've given you about 50%.
The other amoeba, that's the mad cow disease one, right?
No,
Which
mad
one?
cow disease is caused by prion.
Then which one? Oh, then it might be that one.
There's another amoeba that causes enteritis. That's
In the brain,
Entamoeba
though?
histolytica. Huh?
In the brain though?
No,
So I think I was thinking about the
there's
brain.
only two typically that cause infections. I mean, anything can cause infection of the brain, but typically we see Acanthamoeba and Naegleria.
Okay. I think I was thinking of the prion being
Okay, so, yes, sir?
How are you gonna grade the case study? Very
It's 20 points.
aggressively?
You just did it.
I just did it. It's 20
You
points.
already told us we got.
You're
our
done.
20
You're
points.
done. Everybody got 20.
No, I got long.
I'm more interested in the learning aspect of what happened, and I got what I wanted. Right? There was some arguing going on over here.
funny of it.
Anytime there's arguing, that's good academic talk. I like that. There was a lot of nice little chitty chatty going on here because this is a different group and they do different things.
Wow.
And then over here, my people who I wanted to talk about things started talking, and so I got everything I wanted. Okay? Because I know what everybody's
Merry
strengths and
Christmas.
weaknesses are, and I try to